Chris, welcome to Love Your Doorstep and the Radio JJ show.
All right, thanks.
So what we've done is we've asked the public a few questions for you. This is for people that might not be able to attend any of the exhibitions across Enfield over the next couple of months. So what we're going to do is just go through a series of questions, and we'd love to hear what you have to say about these. So before the 28 million became available from the GLA, did the council perceive that there was a need for more cycle routes through Enfield Town? And if not, why not? And is this just money now being available looking for a problem?
Well, it wasn't just Enfield Town. We did a review of cycle provision and we did an action plan in 2012. And from that came some ideas we thought, given the money, we would actually implement. And some of those others that we did actually implement were the greenways in Forty Hall, Hilly Fields, and connections to the great nationwide cycle lane things along the Lee Valley, for example. When this opportunity came up to bid for this extra money, we thought we'd better, because if we didn't, we'd get criticised. So we did, and we actually got the money in, and now we can implement some of those.
Thanks for that, Chris. Now, if you can just explain, when did you actually hear about the bid, and how long did Enfield Council actually have to turn the bid around?
I can't remember the exact dates, but it was a very short period of time, and we got our act together very quickly. I mean, the bid document, as it is, was just to attract the money. I mean, people must understand that. It's very similar to Ken Livingstone's bid for the Olympics. His bid for the Olympics bore absolutely no resemblance to what actually happened at Stratford afterwards. Exactly the same process we applied here. We didn't spend any extra money on it. We didn't get consultants in. Local transport officers put the bid together. So
when the Enfield public asked the question, why weren't they consulted about the scheme before the bid went in? I think that explains it quite well, that these bids do have to be turned around very quickly, and no extra money was actually spent on you getting that bid in.
Well, no, that's right. I mean, why should you consult someone? Because you know everybody is conservative of a small c and probably don't like too much change. So therefore, you don't even wind them up by consulting on a bid, which might not ever happen.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions now about Cecil Road in Enfield Town, and also the impact that, for example, closure on the M25 might have coming down into Enfield Town if Cycle Enfield's implemented across the borough.
Sure.
So the first question is, Cecil Road is made a two-way. How will it actually handle the traffic, given that there's lots of access points along there, like going into the shopping centre, as well as the two religious centres, and there are a couple of car parks along there as well?
The thing to say is that the two-way work in Cecil is only part of, well, it's only one of some options available to us, and residents, as we saw this week, were engaged in to find out what their views were on that. And the solution may well come from the residents. I don't know. I've not seen the final results yet. The important thing is that residents are given a framework, and that's all it is, a framework, to add their comments to. And we will listen to those comments. We will publish those comments and publish the questions that are asked. I thought it was a big success. We're never all going to agree on this. But the thing is to say we've got £30 million worth of way to improve shopping centres and to improve the borough. And we've got to use it, but we've got to take businesses and residents with it.
Great. And just back to the M25. So again, this has got to do with the consultations and how traffic's managed coming in off the M25 if there are road closures up there.
You cannot accommodate someone having an unfortunate accident on the M25. If you did that, you'd never put a bus lane anywhere or let alone a cycle lane.
Something else that keeps coming up quite a lot actually is how the scheme's actually going to benefit the increasing number of elderly and disabled people across the borough, many of whom are dependent upon their cars. And will they be expected to get on their bikes?
No, but I will say this to you, at the Bush Hill Park, where we have a training session for bike users, there is actually a bike there where you can put a wheelchair on and you can cycle the wheelchair around the town, which is quite an amazing thing to see. So some people can be accommodated on a bike.
They can, and I've seen a number of different bikes coming out at the Enfield Town Show last year. Some were on display up at the Dugdale the other day. So yeah, there's some quite funky looking bikes out there now. Absolutely
right, and they're not cheap either. But anyway, moving on. If you're disabled, you've got a blue badge, and blue badge says you can park anywhere. So whatever scheme you put in, the disabled will be looked after as best we can. And they have the ability to park. As for deliveries, again, we're talking to businesses. Whatever scheme we wish to put in the end, businesses have got to be on board with that.
Enfield Market. And obviously the traders are going to have to get their vans in.
No, I think it's an interesting point, and we are talking to the Charitable Trust quite a lot. They are one of our main consultees on the scheme itself, so yeah, we're aware of that.
So the market is going to endure.
The market will have to endure because of the Enfield Charitable Trust to run the market. Because of that charter, we have to have a market somewhere in it.
Following on from that, there was a question raised about the car parking spaces under the Civic Centre. Will they be replaced by cycle racks?
We've already put some new cycle racks, so if it's needed, we will do that.
So there's been a lot of concern, especially down in Palmer's Green, from the business owners down there about the loss of car parking as a result of Cycle Enfield. Yet the car park off Lodge Drive behind the Waitrose has often got lots of spaces free, yet people don't use it. So we just wanted to understand and get an indication from you about your take on that. How is that going to work for business owners down in Palmer's Green?
Well, you're right to say that car park is underused, and it's underused for various reasons. And in Green Lanes, there's a car park at the other end, Ford's Grove, which is equally well used and free. So we can look at the parking regimes in both. I mean, we have introduced in some areas already, and Green Lanes has been one of them, is a pop in, pop out car park arrangement where you can just park up 15 minutes, pop in the shop, do whatever you want to do and come out again. There's no ticket issued and there's no fine issued either. And that's the sort of stuff we're going to need to talk again with businesses about.
Sure. And while we're on the topic of businesses, what's happening with that? Are you going to be holding separate consultations? Because there have been public meetings over the last few months with businesses being pretty angry, to be honest. So what's going to happen to engage these businesses and to do what they need as well?
Yes, we are having meetings with businesses. I stress the word businesses, not people who think they have businesses in the area. So we will be doing that, and we look forward to those engagements.
So, Chris, a question that keeps coming up is where will people store all these bikes once they get them home? People's homes do not allow for the storage. What's your take on that one?
Well, we are looking at provision in public spaces for storing bikes in a safe environment. I dare say we could expand that to people's dwellings as well. I mean, in actual fact, at the Aileycroft, which is the council estate in my ward in Southbury, we already have safe cycle sheds outside the blocks of flats.
So what's going to happen to the bus stops along the routes?
Well, one of our main decision makers in this is where the money comes from, as well as Transport for London. So as they run the buses, I dare say they've got a pretty cute idea what they want to do with the bus stops as the lanes progress.
Great, and that's also something that if you do attend one of the exhibitions, the architects have got different displays, haven't they, of what the streets may look like.
Yeah, we went to Bristol just before Christmas to look at what they're doing up there, because there's a massive cycle intervention in the centre of the city there, which is an amazing place, and it's an amazing city to go to on top of that, I must say. And we looked at some of the stuff they were doing as they're leading the cycle stuff in the West, and it was very interesting. And the bus stops, of course, is a problem for them, more so than us in London, because they've got different companies to run different bus routes. So
how are you actually going to combat some of the problems of the side streets being used as what they call rat runs?
Well, as we do now, I mean, there's various places that have rat runs now, and we do the best we can. But again, there's always rat runs if we have to make streets one way or no entry on that. Residents are fully consulted on all those schemes, and it's always the majority win the day. And I know, whatever scheme from experience, whatever scheme you put in, there's always someone who doesn't want it that way round. But if the majority say that's what they want, and it proves to be a safe environment for car drivers as well as everybody else, then that's the way it's done, and it's the end of it.
Now, cyclists will have to endure high exhaust emissions from idling engines as cars sit in traffic jams. How is this in any way aiding a healthy lifestyle?
Well, if we get the cycle lanes where they should be, there'll be probably less cars on the road anyway. I mean, cyclists suffer that, as do pedestrians suffer that already. So I don't think anything will get worse. I think, if anything, if we do cycle Enfield as some people would see it, then I think the pollution will go down, the air quality will improve, and that the people of Enfield generally will benefit accordingly.
Will the council be running cycling proficiency tests? Because if you're going to get a couple of hundred people suddenly jumping on bikes and cycling around town, fine on the cycle lanes, but you get to a roundabout and it's not going to be a pretty sight.
Yeah, you're right, and that's why we've already instigated one of the schools in Bushhill Park, which is off Southbury Road. It's between Southbury Road and Lincoln Road. On Tuesdays, you can go down there and you can cycle around the park.
There's a lot of empty shops around town, something that I hold dear to my heart and something that Love Your Doorstep's really trying to help with across the borough. Now, at the moment, we're attracting people from outside of town to do their shopping. If this is made difficult for people to come in, how's it going to affect local businesses? What's the car parking going to look like?
Well, the answer to that is I don't know, because we haven't finished our consultation yet. But on the empty shops, you're quite right. In Enfield, it's a disgrace, and Farmers Green is a disgrace. But it's the landlords being greedy. Some of their rents, for what we're in at the moment, which is a massive recession, it's absolute nonsense in my view.
At the moment, we've got exhibitions that have been set up. We've had one at the Fox Pub in Palmer's Green and at the Dovedale here in Enfield Town. Who else are you actually going to be consulting about the scheme and how it's going to look?
Well, we're going to consult certainly with the young members of the community, because we need to do that, because let's be fair, although it's going to be implemented in 2016, they'll be the ones we will target for extra use of it, because it's their future.
I just want to thank you very much for taking the time out to come in and talk to us today and answer the questions for the Enfield public.